My name is John Shaft. Freeze.
Pause. I could relate to that scene with the guy spitting in his face and then him cracking him in the face with a bottle. I mean, I would have used my fist or a nightstick, but it was very relatable. When you do undercover, like deep undercover like Shaft's doing here, your life is on the line every minute. It's very dangerous work. I made myself over 100 off-duty arrests, so I'm working by myself and they're not knowing I'm a cop either. My name is Detective Ralph Friedman. I'm a retired NYPD detective. I've served 14 years on the department and 2 years as a trainee before that, starting in 1968, and my career ended in 1984. Today I'll be watching some New York crime movies from the 70s. Yeah, these are such classics. I probably watched all of those movies over 5 times each. Now let's watch Shaft.
What the hell is this?
2 sweet guesses.
That you, Shaft?
Bet your lovely self it is.
I'll have a car there in a few seconds.
That's what I want to hear, baby.
He was calling his boss to say they got these 2 guys that are probably wanted, and right away he sent over a uniformed car with 2 officers. I would imagine that they knew who John Shaft was because he's working in their precinct. Especially in the movie, they know who he is. He's supposed to be a big figure in the department. Well, if you want to get technical, I don't think he was supposed to hit him in the face with the bottle, but you know, that's a dramatic scene for the movie.
Open it. Okay, turn her loose or he goes.
Of course. In my opinion, the guy that he made go into the door, he's probably a lower level than these guys. They would have fired at Shaft. They wouldn't care if they hit him. But it's a very dramatic scene for the movie. In real life, they would have went with much more officers. They would have surrounded the place, and they would probably quietly try to evacuate the building first. And in later years, they would have had a hostage negotiating team, which was created after this period of time in the policing. But he never would have went into a situation like that by himself. Multiple crimes here: holding a hostage, illegal possession of a gun, pointing a gun at a police officer, threats with a gun. That could happen. You know, you're fighting. Those were big windows that were low to the ground. That could be realistic. Not a building window. We had a lot of times we had fights where we went through a store window, you know, a big plate glass window in the front of a store, either outside going in or fighting inside and coming out. Let's watch Death Wish. I remember when they came out. I'm old, you guys are young. And we didn't have cable vision and movies and Netflix and Amazon. These things, none of these things, these words weren't even invented. Yeah, they were shopping in a supermarket and they were gonna have the food delivered. And that's how these perpetrators got the address and the apartment number. That's a pretty smart way of doing it. Today, I would imagine they get stuff off the internet. But back then, that was pretty legit. That was legit. These guys seemed like they went in either through the basement or a delivery entrance. I wouldn't know how common it is, but it was definitely done because they're going to avoid the doorman.
Shit, man, got business.
Well, that was very big in the 70s, graffiti. You saw it on buildings, on the subway cars. It was sort of stupid when you think about it because all graffiti is a signature. So he was sort of leaving a signature that cops could follow up on later. That's a very serious crime, home invasions. Terrorizing for the people. It happens more than people think. In the 1970s, crime, such as robberies, purse snatches, grand larceny, was running wild. It was rampant. This movie came out, and the premise of it, a vigilante, everybody wanted to see Paul Kersey doing this constantly. The police department would never encourage this. But personally, I would say each officer was pretty happy to see it because, you know, he was shooting scumbags and people that were preying on decent citizens. The audiences ate this up. They couldn't wait for sequels of this movie. Seemed like maybe the good guys would be winning for a change, because crime was that rampant and there were a lot of victims in New York at the time. It was a very turbulent time in the 70s.
Give me your money or I'll bust you up.
Of course, in this incident, he'd be justified in using deadly physical force because the guy was threatening with a gun. In the other instances, they were approaching him, but at that time, they really didn't threaten his life. This one, it would be justified.
So, not a crime.
Maybe the gun was illegal, and we know he's out there baiting them, which isn't a crime, but in today's world, with the DAs that they have today, he would have a little problem, especially if it was an illegal handgun. This was a great scene, but he knew they were going to be coming after him. He should have had that gun out prior, got a little close there with the knife. It's just something I find a little off, not exactly authentic. But otherwise, it was a fantastic scene and crowds were cheering. Here's Dog Day Afternoon.
Freeze! Nobody move! Get over there!
You can't do it, Sonny.
Oh, fuck me. Come on, Sonny! All right, let him out.
You could tell right away that these aren't professional criminals. They portray them today as military-trained guys that go into banks and stuff. He's fumbling with the gun. They give up each other's names right away. They're not wearing masks. One guy is scared the first minute it starts. He wants out right away. It's, very amateurish, the robbery. The movie is very professional. It's right on, and it's very great acting. But they're amateur robbers. Those are considered what they call long arms. It's a rifle. They had to conceal them before they go in because you don't want to show your cards outside. People would call the police. I could see it happening, but it's very amateurish.
Who's this?
This is Detective Sergeant Eugene Moretti, asshole. We got you completely by the balls.
Well, they would try to make contact with him. They know he has hostages, and the main goal here is to get the hostages out safely. So it was a typical police response, and the detectives would try to talk to him. They would reach out through the phone. That's all realistic. A lot of police cars would show, because you need crowd control. They're armed, and if they start firing out the window or if there's an exchange of gunfire, you would need multiple cars and multiple police officers for crowd control, because everybody on the street wants to see what's happening, and you got to move them back. This is a true story, this movie, by the way. He was wanting to rob the bank to get the money for his lover to get transitioned to a female. Really ahead of its time with the transitioning and stuff like that.
Look, we got everything here, okay?
Boy, right now, the power is in his favor. The police are trying to show him that we have power too. But the police don't want to do anything that's going to endanger a hostage. You have civilians that are going to rush to the scene. They'll just see a police presence and want to see what's going on. And when you see it's a bank robbery, something of this magnitude, and they know the news will be responding, everybody wants to get up close, and that's why you need crowd control. The whole thing is a crime scene. It's a bank robbery. You have weapons. You have hostages. This is about as serious as you can get without shooting or killing people or raping. I mean, this is on the verge of, homicides.
They're gonna have any food on board?
It's funny that all this is going on with hostages, guns, police, and he's worried about his menu. It's little things like that that make the movie what it is. It's fantastic.
All right, there's your jet.
Sal, we don't want any accidents at this point. You keep your gun pointed up. I'm ready.
Don't shoot me. Wait a minute.
It was an excellent move, but they wouldn't do it today with hostages there. They would consider it too risky. When they did that quick move to kill Sal, they would have took him out too. His move would have even been safer because the gun was next to him. The other guy had a couple of feet between them, so that was even more of a risk. And it would have been done simultaneously because, he had access to a gun, Pacino. All you want to do is get the hostages out of there. So whatever deals they can make, if it's one at a time, or if it's a couple at a time, whatever they could do to get those hostages out. They don't care about them escaping at that point. They want the hostages. That's the main goal, is to save life. I don't think they'd let them take off with hostages. You want them to think they're getting there, but they don't get there. Now, Serpico.
Hey! It's me, Serpico! I'm a police officer!
Jesus, Frank, how was I supposed to recognize you?
You fire without looking?
Pause. A lot of comments on this. The officers never would have fired from that far away until you know what you have. The main thing it shows is the dangers of working in plain clothes. And you take out your gun, you know, you're in a very dangerous position. I knew things to say, how to identify myself. It's how you say, I'm on the job. An officer would know what that means, and the way you say it, your tone, your expression, your movements. There's a lot besides just a word. I don't know if an officer wants to know if you're really on the job, if you're really a police officer. They would ask you what a certain form means.
Filling out forms till next month.
Good. Do me a favor. Give us the collar. You motherfucker.
Police paperwork is terrible. Today they do it with, cell phones and computers. But paperwork was always a pain in the neck. You're always trying ways to circumvent it and bring it to a minimum, but there's just so much of it. In this scene, he really says, I'm doing all this paperwork because I discharged my weapon. He wanted the arrest. So he was trying to take the arrest from Serpico. Any officer would take more caution. You don't want to fire indiscriminately, and you certainly don't want to harm any innocent person. All weapons that police carry is a big responsibility, 24 hours a day, on duty, off duty, and you have to safeguard it, and you have to use it in a smart manner. It's a big, big responsibility. Okay, let's move on to Taxi Driver.
Got a gun? Get out of here. Suck on this.
Pause. Well, obviously we see a crime committed here, but very realistic. Back in the 70s, there were pimps in doorways. It was common in certain streets and neighborhoods. That was sort of like comical in a way. He just asked that question offhand like that. It was funny, I thought. And then he said, suck on this. Later on, he became a big star. That was Harvey Keitel. Pause. Very realistic, but he's committing numerous crimes going around shooting people. Police respond very quickly to shots fired. It would have been a fast response. But that wouldn't have fit the movie line. And, the action was excellent. Usually, movie guns don't run out of bullets. Sometimes I count on some of the shootings they have with these 9mm. Most 9 that I know of holds like maybe 15 to 17. And you get these guys shooting 30, 40 rounds, especially like in a movie like John Wick. The guy never runs out of bullets,
Stop at a car at 100 yards.
Pause. But what you have here is a gun dealer. These were usually called straw buyers. They would be able to buy all these weapons down south, and they bring them up to New York and sell them at much higher prices. They would also call this the iron pipeline, which means they would be driving these guns up like 95, where it comes, 95 goes like from Canada to the Florida Keys. But they would buy these guns in southern states and drive them up. They would call it the iron pipeline. But that's how these dealers are that you see in this scene.
Look at that. But I just deal high quality goods to the right people.
These guys would sell anything to anyone. This is a little fancy of a scene because they usually dealt right out of the back of their trunk on a street corner or in an alley. But it was very prevalent. The units I was in was very proactive policing. So I've always dealt with guys with guns or they're pulling robberies.
It's nickel plated, snub nose.
Pause. Just want to point out that as police officers, we were always taught never to use nickel-plated guns or silver-colored guns because it reflects the light and gives the perpetrator a target for you. That's why police guns are dark, either blued, what they call blued, or black. You're talking to me. Well, there is a crime in there. It's got illegal guns.
Huh? Faster than you. You talking to me?
Pause. Very iconic scene, very entertaining. A psychotic guy talking to himself like he's facing somebody and drawing the mechanical gun, which was very Hollywood. They use this, are you talking to me? Even today in some movies. It's something that got carried through the decades. Pause. I remember those police cars well. After we went from the, what they call the black and whites, we went to the blue. That cab is even iconic because it's a checkered cab. You don't see too many of them in New York anymore. They sort of faded out over the years. But I remember them as a kid because they used to have on the floor in the back a pop-up seat where the adults would sit on the regular back seat and the kids would sit on these pop-up seats that came up.
Give me the rest of the fucking bread.
Hey.
Is he dead?
I don't know. His eyes are moving. I ain't got a permit for this thing. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
No, man, I'll take care of it.
Very realistic scene. I could see a storekeeper telling him to leave to protect him after that guy just saved his life. For the times. Today, everything would be on camera, inside the store and out. So nobody would do that today, but this is depicting the 60s and 70s. I could see this going down definitely like that. In the scene, he says, I don't have a permit for this gun. So he's always committing a crime in this movie because he's dealing with illegal guns. See, now in an investigation today, there'd be cameras on buildings, on traffic poles, in the store, other stores, people's homes. They would track them down. It would be very easy. They could probably work on this case from their house. Bodegas are hotbeds of crime. They're either being the victims of a crime or they're committing crimes. In those years, they used to sell liquor, they sold loose cigarettes, they sold drugs, they took numbers. You know, a lot of things went on in the back rooms with gambling. They were committing crimes and people were committing crimes against them. You know, the junkies would rob them because they knew they had money. Credit cards weren't big back in those years, so there was a lot of cash business going on. One day they were victims, one day they were perpetrators. Here is the taking of Pelham, 1, 2, 3.
How am I supposed to see what you... Holy God, what do you want? I'm taking your train.
Open the door or I'll blow your head off.
Obviously, you have many crimes taking place here. Illegal weapons, menacing with a gun, taking a train. I think that's the first time I've ever heard of it being done. And obviously, with taking of a train, you have numerous hostages and creating a very dangerous situation for everybody involved. And the subways were a hotbed of crime because communications were bad. It was underground, more hidden from witnesses and more concealed atmosphere. And not only does this scene endanger passengers and the trainmen, but also other trains. When they start moving, they're all on a time schedule and you're endangering people in other trains and train stations at the same time. It has a domino effect. Here is The Warriors. Of course, these were your common street gangs of the 60s and 70s. One gang outnumbers the others like 12 to 4, and they're also should be out of breath by all this running by now, so I don't see how they would be able to handle that.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
Pause. I don't think the 4 guys would turn around and start to fight 12 guys, also with bats. It's a little unrealistic. And in the gangs of the 60s and 70s, they would be carrying chains and zip guns, actually. A zip gun was a homemade .22 gun, very popular in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, mostly the 50s. But I've even seen a couple of them when I started on the streets in 1970. I made a few arrests for those. It's usually made from an auto antenna and rubber bands and a .22 bullet. Or if you did get hit by a bat, it would be a much more serious injury than just getting knocked down. I find it a little corny that the other fighters didn't jump in when it's like 3-1, you know, when each guy is fighting one-on-one. I mean, it looked good for entertainment for a movie of that time, but not that realistic.
Shit, I figured they were wimps.
We didn't have parks like that in the Bronx, in the area that I worked in. There are parks in the Bronx, but at night they're very dangerous even to this day. They're sort of deserted, and I don't think people should be jogging or going in there. It's just an unsafe condition.
Was the fighting itself a crime?
When you're using a weapon such as a bat, absolutely. Like I said from the first clip, we see now guys carrying chains, which is a little more realistic. I don't think it would be realistic with somebody coming in on skates. You know, that was a little outlandish, probably just for entertainment purposes. A chain would be a swinging motion they'd be going for your head. You didn't see too many people with bats walking around like that. Bats are much harder to steal, but if they did use a bat, it would cause such an injury. If you got hit, even in the side of the body, you would go right down. The fight wouldn't be continuing. What would be more common in this time in these kind of fights would be more knives. Once in a while a gun, but knives were very prevalent. The only knives that were illegal was like a dagger or a dirk, which is a curved knife, or a switchblade. But a regular knife is legal on the streets unless you use it as a weapon. Most officers carried knives. They also carried a nightstick, handcuffs. There was no such thing as mace back then, or some of the gadgets that police have today. These perpetrators here, these gang members, probably would have died from stuff they caught in the bathroom faster than the fake bats. This would be a pretty authentic, because if someone fired a gun in a crowd, especially at a concert, there would be a very large stampede. People would be getting hurt on that also. Firing a gun in the crowd is definitely a crime. It'd be a crime even if there wasn't a crowd. You can't fire guns in the city limits. The police aren't trained to deal with a fleeing mob. They would prefer they do flee, if they're approaching something or at a scene of a demonstration. But the police are very well trained in protecting a scene or having them in vans. We used to have specialized units that would handle crowd control itself. Back when we were there, we had a thing called airmail. Perpetrators would go up on the roofs and throw things down at the police. Bottles, bricks, maybe a Molotov cocktail, stuff like that, but we call it airmail. I liked all the movies. They're all iconic. I watched them all multiple times. But Death Wish, I like the best, I'd say. I saw all of these movies in the theaters. In those years, we didn't have on demand. All movies were only shown in the movies. I enjoyed watching them again, these clips, and commenting on them. It was reminiscent, and I'll probably go home and watch a couple of them again now.
This is the producer of the video you just watched. If you enjoyed it, please like it, please subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends. We got a whole team of people trying to make videos just like this one, and it really helps us out. Thank you.